would it in fact be the fast track that the Trump administration is claiming it would be? I mean, right now, there are folks that can marry Americans, and that helps to expedite their immigration status a little bit, no?
Yeah, but some cases, well, they might not be able to marry Americans because they might already be married. And so fast track is a relative concept based on what the government wants to do, because we've seen the government move in different places as they're doing all of these raids without consideration of cost. But at the same time, they fired 30 judges. So if it's about cleaning out the immigration system, it's about where you allocate the money to. In our country, even when you marry a U.S. citizen, it takes about a year to 18 months to get your green card. That's a long time. In other countries, it's sort of done within 30 to 45 days. So there's a resolution and a closed case and an investigation. We have this concept that we're doing some extreme vetting, and that sort of if it takes a year, then we've really vetted a lot. But really what's happening is the case is sitting on file, it's paper file sitting on moving from desk to desk to desk, which is sort of running up the processing times. So if the president wanted to, just like in the last administration, when the Biden administration decided they were going to give this waiver for people who are married to U.S. citizens that were here, they could process them quickly to get them issued. So it's a choice.
There's a lot of choices that are being made that are scaring the heck out of people on the immigration front. A lot of people sort of shocked to learn that the government actually knows a lot more about us than I think most people think that they know, related to our immigration status and our relationship with folks who may have other immigration status. There's a New York Times article, headline read, how the Supreme Court made legal immigrants vulnerable to deportation. Talk to us about what you're seeing in your own practice, what you're hearing from colleagues in terms of, these Supreme Court decisions that are coming down, that it feels like they're moving the goalpost at the least. Am I tracking that?
So I don't know if I think it's the same thing that we see in the financial markets. It's uncertainty with regards to decisions that were made by prior administrations. The United States has a long history of continuing whatever the prior president did with regards to someone's status in the United States. They might not extend it further than that, but they definitely don't cut it short. And so what we've seen now in this new administrative landscape, where the goal is about the numbers and the current administration is not meeting the numbers, you have to make people undocumented. And then you want to shoot fish in a barrel. So what you heard about with the Supreme Court recently was this TPS. So these individuals had status. Many of them had status for a very long time in the United States, decades. And the Supreme Court said, yes, the current president has the right to just end the status and then let it adjudicate through court. And then if they lose, you're not going to be able to give the status back, right? Because that's going to take a long time for them to get from the trial court all the way up to the Supreme Court to make a decision on the merits. But they're allowing the president to end it now. And so that's close to 500,000 individuals in this country that are just going to be removed from jobs and statuses that they already had. And they may be in mixed status, right? Some of them have married American citizens that aren't able to become green card holders for different reasons, or they have kids that are now American citizens. So there are a lot of choices that they're requiring them to make. You see the same thing in the student arena, where you have students with visas who are about to graduate, and the government's now saying, no, wait a minute, you did this post, you did this article, you're against the state, we don't want you here anymore. Or categorically saying, as Mark Rubio did, that all Chinese nationals are going to have a heightened scrutiny, right? Or we're going to stop processing student visas altogether. In addition to that, you have people who are green card holders. So you've been a green card holder, you just haven't been able to become a citizen because you don't want to take the test. You have a dual citizenship that you might lose, India, China, someplace like that. Or you just didn't want to do it. You don't have the money. It's $700 to become a U.S. citizen to pay the fee to go through the cost. You just didn't want to do it. Well, you might have had an arrest years ago for drug paraphernalia possession, much less drugs, or a number of DUIs. Now, or you've made some post of something, and now you travel abroad, and on your way back in, you're informed that your green card status is being taken away from you. And that's what the government's saying, even in their daily post, that no matter what your status is, unless you're a citizen, that it can be revoked from you because it is the government that is allowing you to have the status, which has not been the interpretation of any court in the past or any administration in the past.
Yeah, I mean, that's a part of what caught my attention when I was reading this New York Times article over the weekend. The opening line, the government knows their names. And so, you're glued in there. And, based on this reporting, the Department of Homeland Security, they know where, most folks are because of, immigration questions on paperwork and things. They know that 500,000 or so reside in the U.S. legally, but there are a lot of folks that are vulnerable. And, in case people are wondering, well, how are they vulnerable? According to this article, many of them have shared detailed information with the government, including their addresses, biometrics. How many times have we gone through, Clear or TSA pre-check, and we're sharing a fingerprint or an ID or a retinal biometric confirmation or scan, and. And so reading that, it made me understand very clearly that, wow, we're actually more vulnerable than we think, because so many of us have leaned into technology, right?
Well, it's not even about vulnerable, right? So I think it's a little bit of where people sort of choose to do the Trusted Traveler program. Once you, in the Trusted Traveler program, you basically say the government has a right to look at your information anytime they want. And people don't read that fine print with the Trusted Traveler program. So the concept has always been, if you haven't done anything wrong, then what is there to fear? And the issue that I think this is more centered around rather than information is, it's people who are not a threat to society because they are doing everything the right way. They are letting you know where they work. They're letting you know where they live. They're giving you their biometric information. So why are you concerned with saying that you're going to go pick them up? Because those aren't the criminals that you're trying to capture, because these are individuals who are voluntarily giving you this information, just like in the Trusted Traveler program. I'm trusting you to go through the system for me, and I'm going to give you all this information because I want that benefit of the immigration benefit. So it's, once again, the government is deciding to say, we're going to shoot fish in a barrel. We know where these people are. We'll just go collect them. And then we'll run up and say, whatever the charges are, they had a DUI, this person overstayed their visa, whatever the claim, the story they need to be to make them criminal aliens is the story they're doing it. So it's sort of a backfill. But yes, in the society across the board, from our computers to our phones, we have given up a lot of biometric information along the way. And it's going to be hard to capture that information back. And the question becomes, in Dodge, where did that information go? Is it still within the government or is it someplace else? There are federal rules, international rules with regards to the biometrics of children. And right now the United States is collecting the biometrics of immigrant children for the purpose of, if in the future they create a crime, they will have a database that they can go through and say, this is who the immigrant is.
Wow. And they're doing that even without parental consent.
That's right. And it's against the international law. So
I mean, it's just the latest of many international laws that we are turning a blind eye to. Last I checked, seeking asylum was an international human right, but I can't tell. And to be honest, couldn't tell during the final years of the Biden administration, because they had turned a blind eye to previous commitments to asylum as a human right, no?
Well, it was all about trying to make concessions to try to get something done through Congress. And as we saw with Obama, that doesn't work. These concessions are not a way. No matter what you give, you need to give more. And no matter what it is, it's never going to be fixed, right? Even now they claim the southern border is fixed, but they have 4 to 5 officers for every one immigrant that's trying to enter the country. So at what cost and what expense are you doing this? We've seen story after story of immigrants being collected on the street with 6 or 7 officers rounding them up while they're doing yard work or they're working on a building. What is the cost project for that? Not just the expense of the officers doing that work, but also the expense of now those workers are being removed from the workforce, and that work still needs to be done, increasing the price overall for the community.
Yeah. I also want to ask you, how common is administrative error? We've seen this mentioned in a number of stories, where we know that there was a gentleman in the state of Maryland who was detained. Mr. Garcia, Abrego Garcia, who was detained. It is known that was an administrative error. The administration says, so what? How common is this? I have a feeling that for every one Abrego Garcias, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other people who may find themselves in similar situations.
Right. So I think an administrative error is different than reckless disregard for the law and procedure. Because if they would have followed due procedure with all these individuals, they would have discovered what their status was before they were removed from the United States, which is what the legal claim is within court. That's what due process is about. You say they're a criminal, let's go through due process to make sure they are a criminal or they are not a criminal. So in many of these cases, the makeup artist from California, the gay individual from Texas, all of these stories are sort of bubbling up now because what they don't have is lawyers, right? There's no one to sort of give light to these stories. And what the government says is, oh, they're all criminals. You shouldn't care. Don't worry about them, right? And they don't, the 273. So there was a study by Cato, which is a libertarian organization, that said out of the 200 and something odd people that went there, only 36 of them actually had crimes, right? So not only are we removing them, right? So let's talk about U.S. law. Generally, when we deport somebody, we deport them to their home country and we give them back to their home country. We're done. We don't remove people to prisons. That's a different process, right? If you were arrested, never given a trial, and put into a prison, you would say, wait a minute, that's not very American. Well, that's what happened to the people who went down to those ECOC prisons down there. They didn't have any service. They're in prison now. We don't do that in general. And we're paying to have them housed there. So it's a different level of not just we return the nationals there, but we're paying for them to sort of police their own nationals there. So there's a little bit of involvement there that says in the legal system, what happens is before you put me behind the jail, even if I am guilty, I have a trial. Mm-hmm. And the trial is the circumstance in which we make sure that everything that we need to know is evaluated. And if I'm truly guilty, then I will go to this jail. But if I'm not, then I will be relieved because I have these other benefits. And what we found is in this haste to run up the numbers again, people are getting the due process. And so therefore they are calling them errors, but they're not errors. It's reckless disregard.
And that is really at the center of what this fight is all about for folks who may be less steeped in immigration law and may say, look, I'm just trying to work hard and feed my family. Like, I'm not really paying attention to this. This is why you should pay attention to this, right? Because the same lack of due process that is causing folks to be deported when they shouldn't be, it's the same disregard to due process that gets us entangled with police in our communities, for example. Exactly. You know, and it's the same due process that people try to skirt around when it comes to us exercising our right to vote. You know, due process is very central to who we say we are as Americans, very central to our Constitution. If we allow folks in power to operate with a complete disregard to due process, then we are all biting off way more than we can chew. Right. When we come forward, more with Alan Orr, founder of Immigration Law Firm. Alan, I want to ask you about a bill that requiring that Texas sheriffs work with federal immigration authorities. It's now heading to the governor's desk. It looks like Governor Greg Abbott of Texas is going to sign it. We want to get your hot take on that and more when we come forward. You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 15.
The audience is listening, thought-provoking, eye-opening, heart-rendering. This is where authentic voices meet powerful discussions on culture, community, and change. This is where Black voices matter. He's breaking boundaries, amplifying diverse perspectives, and tackling the issues that matter most to you. You're inside A More Perfect Union with Dr. Nii-Quartelai on KBLA Talk 1580.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker is celebrating Illinois' 7th straight balanced budget, a $55 billion plan with new taxes on tobacco, vaping, and sports betting.
Unlike the federal government, we are balancing our budget for the benefit of your families, while Trump spends wildly to benefit his family and their Doge Bro friends.
He says it helps working families more than Trump-era federal cuts. 11 people were stabbed Sunday night at the Union Gospel Mission in Salem, Oregon. Police say the victims were taken to Salem Health with various injuries. A male suspect is in custody, but no motive has been released. And Sean Diddy Combs' sex trafficking trial resumes today in New York. His lawyers continue cross-examining a former assistant under the alias Mia, who says Combs raped and abused her. A man by the name of Enrique Santos is expected to testify next. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Enjoy a revolutionary shopping experience. Wild Fork Foods Meat and Seafood Market has unbelievable prices with impeccable quality. From farm to freezer, premium meats and seafood, everyday grocery staples, and meal solutions. Visit wildforkfoods.com.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
One of the two teams in the NBA Finals will win their first NBA championship. The Oklahoma City Thunder and Indiana Pacers are among 11 teams that have never won an NBA title. They meet up in the best-of-7 series beginning Thursday night. The first two games are in OKC. The other 9 teams that have not won an NBA championship, the Clippers, Minnesota, Utah, Sacramento, Memphis, New Orleans, Atlanta, Charlotte, and Brooklyn. The SWAC Conference football game this season on October 4th between Florida A&M and Mississippi Valley State has been moved from Itta Bena, Mississippi to Atlanta. The HBCU game will be played in Mercedes-Benz Stadium, home of the NFL Atlanta Falcons. Mercedes-Benz Stadium has a capacity of 71,000. There are more Florida A&M alumni in Atlanta than any other city in the country. Both teams are now expected to earn more money from the gate revenues after the venue change. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Yeah, y'all, come on. Here come the drums.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we fight the power every day.
Yeah, gotta give us what we want. Gotta give us what we need. Hey.
I listen to KBLA and I love the commercials. I know what the commercials mean. I also, if I'm looking and trying to figure something out, I need something to talk to me that might hit me. And it happens on TV because, you know, every time they show a sporting event, they got the pharmaceutical companies back to back to back telling people how to fix the sickness on the same stuff that they sell them. So we get it.
Yep, we get it too, Chuck D. And that's why at KBLA Talk 1580, we don't black down.
Drop it! Our freedom of speech is freedom of death. We got to fight the powers that be. Fight the power! Fight the power!
It's never too early to start talking about money in realistic ways with your kids. JP Morgan Chase navigates how to educate your kids now about creating long-lasting, healthy money habits. Whether your kids are in elementary school, high school, or college, now is a great time to start a conversation about ways to create healthy money habits as they grow, ultimately benefiting their financial future. Talking about money in a realistic way to support your kids' lifestyle and dreams, your first banking account geared towards high school or college. It's never too early. Explaining the basics, what you earn and what you spend, building financial confidence starts with getting organized. Learning and practicing vital money skills now will stay with them for life. Tools they will have to stay on top of their finances and achieve their goals. This segment is sponsored by JP Morgan Chase.
Lena Bloom for the Bail Project.
Imagine you're stuck in a jail cell and you can't afford bail and someone offers you a way out. Just plead guilty and you can go home and kiss your kids goodnight. What do you do? What thousands have. You plead guilty whether you are or not. Cash bail makes poverty a crime. That's why the Bail Project helps those who can't afford it while fighting to end cash bail. Because freedom should be free.
Brought to you by the Ad Council.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Zoe Williams, a.k.a. the Voice of Reason, encouraging you to join me weekdays from 7 to 9 p.m. for the world's most intriguing relationship radio roundtable. Every night, I facilitate and encourage our loyal listeners to participate in the most engaging relationship discussions you'll hear anywhere. So make it a point to rendezvous with me, Zoe Williams, the Voice of Reason, Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Trust me, your relationships will never be the same. The VOR is on fire tonight.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black. This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Hit me!
National news of consequence, informed opinion, and
analysis beyond the headlines.
You're listening to A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I always feel so much more smarter. Just get smarter talking to Alan Orr about all things immigration. He's the founder of Orr Immigration Law Firm. And Alan, one of the biggest cheerleaders for mass deportation in this country. He was active when candidate Trump was on the campaign trail. He is all the more active with now President Trump in his second term. Senate Bill 8 has made it to the governor's desk. Lawmakers have passed this bill. It would require sheriffs who run or contract out operations of a jail to request and enter agreements with ICE under federal law that lets ICE extend limited immigration authority to local law enforcement officers. This is a very contentious issue during the campaign. There was a lot of daylight between Trump's plan on immigration and Harris's plan, and Trump's winning out with Senate Bill 8 if it's signed by Governor Abbott. What say you about this legislation?
So Texas politics are a lot different from the very beginning. So let's put that on the table. They spent billions of dollars to get no numbers. They're the people who bus people to Chicago and New York that caused expenses that they've never recouped before. They're also the people who are charging the federal government now, saying in this new budget bill that they want to be reimbursed for the money they decide to spend to put havoc on these other places. So that's number one. Number two, immigrants have made Texas what it is today. And so the concept that these 287G agreements make could be fun in places like Dallas. But in Portland being Texas, or Boston, Texas, or Paris, Texas, it might not work because they might not have a full-time officer. And that's really the problem of this whole system is it's not a one-size-fits-all. And not only is it not a one-size-fits-all, it's that each officer is not the same. An immigration officer has more knowledge about the immigration system than your Barney Five. And giving Barney Five the right to enforce immigration when they don't know what it is, it's going to be racially enforced, right? It's different age groups, and he's always going to miss the law and put the government and the state in where they can be sued. And that's the taxpayer's expense going wrong. And so that's problem number one. There's not equal trading. Number two, the jails in many of these communities may not exist, right? I live in a town where there is a jail, but not really, right? It's a very small town, about 800 people. So, and we don't have police officers on the weekend, right? If we need some sort of enforcement on the weekend, we have to rely on the county, and the county may be 20, 30 minutes away. So you're not, our downtown is closed on the weekend because they don't feel that if something happened, a cop could get here in time to do some type of law enforcement action. And if an organization wanted to open, they would have to hire private people to pay for have that. So there's small communities with maybe a cop, a sheriff, and a deputy that can't do these 287G. They can't enforce it. The jails aren't set up to hold people long term. So jails, unlike prisons, are supposed to be short stay. So if you arrest someone in a jail in the middle of nowhere and ICE doesn't come pick them up for weeks, then the county is responsible for taking care of the medical need, the food, all those other expenses. Does that make sense to anyone as a way to sort of keeping someone who just may potentially be out of sense, who may have been speeding, who could have paid the ticket and gone on about their lives? No, it doesn't make sense. So it really puts a burden on local communities. And we've already seen in Georgia that there were 2 communities that signed these agreements. And then once they signed it, the expenses were so high and they didn't have enough people to enforce it, they had to drop out of their agreements. So great. Once again, we're all about enforcement. You're really going to do enforcement. It's more about sending the message that they want to enforce and actually doing it. Because if you remove all the immigrants right now from Texas, Texas would fall apart.
And look, this may be happening in slow motion. We know this bill would cover approximately 234 of the state's 254 counties, according to the bill author. And, when I saw this, it made me think about some of the vigilante groups who have increased in intensity in terms of their violence, quite frankly, in communities across the country. Talk to us about what signal Governor Abbott will send to leaders of these vigilante groups, not just in Texas, but across the country, if he signs this bill as expected.
Well, so I don't think the bill is going to be the sort of, they already have the Long Star, something, their own sort of militia that they started way before this during the Biden administration. That were people off the street who were going to enforce federal rules that it had been sued. And now that Trump's in administration, that case is sort of falling apart. So I think it's already sent messages where you see individuals feel as though they have the right to imply that you don't belong here or you're not a citizen in the viral videos that we see in all of our social media, where people are saying, oh, you're not a citizen, you're not blah, 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 because maybe they don't speak English, or maybe they're brown skinned, or maybe they're in the park, or maybe they're wearing a hijab, who knows what, but it's sort of this otherness that sort of happens along with the registration. So it's a message of who the citizenry really cares about, because all of these things give doctrine to law enforcement officers who are now wearing masks or no ID to go after any individual and say, but I had reasonable cause. And then the reasonable cause would be what? Their color, their language, the way they walk, their neighborhood. All those things go back to a time in our country that we should not be willing to return to. So these militia groups, we've already seen them sort of on the forefront marching and being brave about things that the president has made sort of ample, that you're protecting the country, that all these criminal aliens. But once again, you should ask yourself rationally, if there are a lot of criminal aliens in this country, but we're only picking up the aliens at workforce sites or students on their way to graduation, that doesn't sound like a criminal alien to me. And if somebody's been here 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, and the only crime they have on their system was they came in and they didn't have documentation, then are we really using our money the most appropriate way to sort of get to those criminals? So what the government is doing there is not getting those criminal aliens that they tell you, that the ones that are a threat, because they're getting the aliens who are following the rules, not the ones who are not following the rules. And that's
right.
not making you any safer.
That's right. That's right. As much as they want to say making America safer, don't fall for the okie doke. Alan, in our remaining minutes, I want to switch gears a little bit and talk to you about folks that are being brave for real, for real. There
Just 1
is,
second.
Sure.
Sorry. Dust and allergies.
No worries. No worries. You know, I understand the struggle, particularly here in DC.
Yeah.
So there are these viral videos of grown Black men calling their grown Black male friends to tell them good night. This TikTok trend is really racking up the numbers. I've seen it. I don't know if you've seen it in your feed, but I wanted to get your take on this from a different angle, sort of the social psychology of Black men, right? Apparently in these viral videos, you got, Black men calling other Black men like, well, why are you telling me good night, right? Almost inferring that, there's something untoward or something sexual about it. But some of these videos have actually been quite moving, with folks sort of surprised that somebody cares enough to say goodnight to them. I'm bringing this up because so much has been said and talked about when it comes to Black men coming off of the 2024 election. And I think this is just an opportunity to humanize us in a special way. And so I wanted to give you an opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah. So for me, let's take me in a context of my life story. I went to Morehouse. It was a brotherhood. There were a lot of Black men there at all cases, at all Black male, when only all male Black schools in the United States. We were taught to foster and support other people in their moments. And so during the new student orientation, it was a very tight bonding of that situation where it was not uncommon for someone to express an I love you to this, or I'm glad that we're here together, or that moment. And it was such a bond that even after graduation to this day, although I've been to law school and I was also in high school, I have a stronger bond with the Morehouse brothers than I do with any of the other categories of individuals who are in my life. And same thing for those people, those Morehouse brothers who went to me to law school. So I feel that there's a spectrum of what people are looking at and what people want to define as masculinity. But I think what people also forget in some of those very sincere moments are the things that was important to us for Morehouse, which is this brotherhood and also this parenting, and that you were encouraged to give your child, your male child, the love and support they needed. So they had the foundation when they went outside the door to say no to things because someone wasn't telling them their value is this, because they knew what their value was. They knew that someone supported them. They knew they could be successful. They knew that it was all right to say, I love you, and to be loved, and to not have to hold that sort of comment to themselves. So to me, I think it's a very normal thing to do, because I was reared on a farm in which my grandfather used strong language to incentivize us, right? So his love was very much condescending constantly. And it took me to my adult years to sort of understand that. And then once I understood what his rhythm was, then I sort of dealt with it, because he dealt with racism of, two worlds. And so I think it's a very useful thing. And I think that people can take it any way they want to take it. But some people might need that phone call. And the Black men of 1960 and 1970 that were rigid and hard and thought that having emotion was not part of being able to deal with is what leads to the social stress that kills us today, rather than be able to have these moments to say that brotherhood. And it is okay to have a love for a man and not be sexual with them, to be able to express, to say goodnight, as you would say to your father or your mother. One of the, I lost my mother early on, and something I tell the people all the time, if you have a parent that's still alive and you're an adult child and you live miles away from them, you can calculate how many times you're probably going to see them for the rest of your life, maybe 30 times, maybe 40 times in person. So why not pick up the phone and have an expression, a moment with them to be able to say whatever, or to brighten their day and call and say, I just thought about you, blah, blah, blah. Those are the simplest things you can do for the reward of being a child of theirs to carry on. And so for me, it's not odd, it's not strange, it's not weird. It's the progression that we've got to, that Black men have now said, you know what, it is okay. I can live in the same world as other people and express my love, and it doesn't have nothing to do with my masculinity.
Amen, amen, amen. I really appreciated everything you had to share there, Alan. And I too agree that, it is a spectrum, and, you never know what people are going through. We talk about health too often, I think, from the neck down. And though it's important, we don't talk about health enough from the neck up, right? And a part of how we build healthy relationships with ourselves and with other people is doing those check-ins, right? Folks aren't always going to tell you when they're on the edge. They aren't always going to say, when they're on the brink of tears, right? But I think no matter what occurs in the days and weeks and years ahead, I am increasingly convinced that we get to the other side of it in community, and it doesn't have to be weird when we engage each other in community. My thanks to Alan Orr, founder of Orr Immigration Law Firm. Thank you for coming on to help us make it make sense.
Thank you for having me.
You're listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580, the quiet part out loud when we come forward.
Striving to make America a nation as good as its promise. This is A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm LA City Councilman Curran Price, inviting you to join us on Saturday, June the 14th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. as we cut the ribbon on the brand new Enel Woods Park at 8703 South McKinley Avenue. Thanks to a generous donation from Heal the Bay, the park features smart irrigation, stormwater capture systems, and space for local wildlife to thrive. And we've built a walking trail, picnic areas, native landscaping, and quiet spaces for families to gather, relax, and connect. This is part of a much larger effort to expand green spaces across South LA with 3 new parks in the works, a first-of-its-kind community center coming soon, and plans to connect it all through the South LA Greenway. So mark your calendar for Saturday, June 14th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m., and come celebrate a greener, stronger South LA at Enel Woods Park. I'm also pleased to sponsor the Climate Justice plus Black Health Symposium, moderated by Tavis Smiley, live on C-SPAN, Wednesday, June the 18th, from 4 to 7 p.m. at the Nate Holden Performing Arts Center. Just a reminder to sign up right away at the KBLA1580.com website to join me, Mayor Karen Bass, Congresswoman Sidney Kamlager Dove, Tennessee State Representative Justin Pearson, Dr. Cornel West, former Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., the Sierra Club's Ben Jealous, and other Black influencers in the climate and health fields, as we continue to amplify the connection between climate and poor health outcomes for our people. Thank you for listening. I'm Councilman Curran Price.
During this time, it's important for everyone to know your rights. The 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments in the U.S. Constitution protects every one of us, regardless of immigration status. The 4th Amendment requires a judicial warrant to search your home. The 5th protects your right to remain silent, and the 6th gives you the right to an attorney. Just remember,
no warrant, no key, my privacy. You don't have to speak. No lawyer inside. Don't say a thing. Yeah, we all got rights.
Hey, we all got rights. Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
Founded in Los Angeles in 1986, litigation powerhouse Quinn Emanuel has deep roots in the Los Angeles community. Since 2007, we have litigated some of the largest fires on the West Coast. We are proud to be the only AmLaw 100 firm in the country to represent wildfire victims, giving affected individuals, families, and businesses the same focus and individualized attention we devote to our Fortune 500 clients. BTI Consulting has repeatedly recognized Quinn Emanuel as among the 4 law firms in-house counsel least liked to oppose in any litigation, and we are often deemed the most feared. And after securing over $80 billion for our clients in various matters firm-wide, we understand why. If you have been affected by the recent wildfires in Altadena and the Palisades and would like to discuss your situation further, please contact wildfire support at QuinnEmanuel.com or call us at 213-443-3050. Quinn Emanuel is proud to sponsor Conversation Live Altadena Rising with James Farr on KBLA Talk 1580.
Attorney advertising. Prior results do not guarantee future outcomes.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580 is committed to self-care and community well-being. Walk Good LA was formed in June 2020, inspired by the Black Lives Matter movement and the beginning stages of the COVID-19 pandemic. What began as a few minutes of breath work and yoga meditation before protests against police brutality turned into a safe space for the community to heal in hard times. The immensely positive response from the community transformed the momentum into a movement. Today, Walk Good LA is a Black and brown-led community wellness organization based in Los Angeles. They provide spaces for healing through community yoga classes, guided meditations, hikes, run clubs, and other activations throughout Los Angeles that attract hundreds of members weekly. With the help of Propel and Michael B. Jordan, they now have a yoga and wellness studio in Los Angeles called the Walk Good Yard. To join their mailing list and connect with healing spaces, please visit walkgoodla.org. That's walkgoodla.org. Or find them on Instagram at walkgoodla. This is a community call to action, a community call to healing from KBLA Talk 1580.
Notable journalists, industry leaders, lawmakers, change makers, tastemakers, and you, working to build a more perfect union on KBLA Talk 1580.
You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580. I'm Dr. Nii-Quartelai, and it's time for the quiet part out loud. Now, for those of you that are history buffs like I am, you can recite the preamble to the Constitution by memory, right? But for those who could use a little refresh, we the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity, do ordain and establish the Constitution of the United States of America. Essential to this democracy, essential to making sure, quite frankly, that the government is doing right by us, is the press. And look, the press has not been striking a complete 100, nor have members of the press always been keeping it 100 with we the people, but we live to fight each and every day. Look, I saw this headline as reported by The Guardian, and I thought it worthy of sharing with you. Reporter says that she was fired from her Trump-friendly outlet after criticizing U.S. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth. You see, a pro-Donald Trump journalist said that she was fired from her job after criticizing the president's Secretary of Defense over his attempts to restrict media access at the Pentagon. Gabrielle Cuccia, the former chief Pentagon correspondent for the far-right Trump-friendly media outlet One America News, otherwise known as OAN, says that she was terminated shortly after she published a Substack post accusing the Hegseth Defense Department of clamping down on press access. She had said the restrictions were disturbing. She questioned the Defense Department's motives in tightening media restrictions and noted that Hegseth has yet to hold a formal press conference since taking office. Now, if the pro-Trump reporter for the pro-Trump news outlet, if she's courageous enough to say the quiet part out loud, then we should be courageous enough to hear that, to value that, and if we can, act on that. You see, Cuccia claimed that the shift began after the controversy known as Signalgate, in which Hegseth, a former Fox News anchor, allegedly shared sensitive military details in a group chat that inadvertently included well-known journalists from The Atlantic. According to Cuccia, The scandal marked the beginning of a broader effort to limit media interaction at the Pentagon. I think we want to know what's happening or not happening at the Defense Department. And keeping the press walled off, guess what? It never ends well. It doesn't. It never ends well. And so as we transition into the next 100 days and then 100 days after that of this new presidency, it's important that we don't let the things that are important slip away. It's worth making a big stink. It's worth fighting back to ensure that the press has access to what our government's doing at all levels. We just happen to be having this conversation about press access at the U.S. Defense Department, but what about the access of the press to your local government officials, to your state legislature, to your governor's office, right? Let's not just hyper-focus on the Trump administration. Let's take a look wherever we are. It's always a good day to support local media. And we certainly thank you for supporting KBLA Talk 1580 each and every day. We'll have to leave it there. My thanks to the entire village that you're a part of that helps us produce a more perfect union. Our executive producer, Tavis Smiley, our sound engineer, Andy, our show producers, Faraji and Art, and of course, each and every one of you. We mean it. Remember, do what you can from where you are with what you have, but by all means, do something. You are listening to and streaming A More Perfect Union on KBLA Talk 1580.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Bree Wood with BIN News Now. 7 teens were shot in a drive-by near St. Sabina Church on Chicago's South Side early Saturday. Father Michael Flager, who heard the gunfire, called it a wake-up call for the community.
The fact that there was not more than 7 shot is a miracle. And the fact that nobody died is nothing but God.
No arrests have been made and a $10,000